Puss in Boots. On May of 2010, DreamWorks released Shrek Forever After, which they said to be the last time we'll see the green ogre on the big screen. What they didn't say, however, is that we'll still see him and his friends on TV specials and spin-offs. One of these spin-offs they mentioned would be starring everyone's favorite Zorro impersonating kitten, Puss. But now that the spin-off has finally arrived, how is it comparing to the other Shrek films? Is it as grand as the first two? Or is it as bad as the last two? Let's find out. The story. I thought that an interesting plot for Puss would be telling the original tale and give it a twist. Something like the modern animated Disney films like The Princess and the Frog or Tangled. This is not what happened. Instead, we got a heist movie with a plan to go into the giant's castle to steal the goose that lays the golden eggs. And to be honest, it works pretty well. It may be true that the plot is not really that fresh and it might take some elements from other movies, but the way they tell it is well explained, clever, emotional, and even epic. Also, unlike the Shrek films that are more of a comedy, Puss in Boots is actually more of an action-adventure film, but with a little bit of humor, something like the Pirates in the Caribbean films. For the action and adventure, they really make it work and you get into it really quick, but for the humor, it's more of a hit and miss. The best jokes I find are more in the first half of the film. The rest, well, eventually will make you go,
"That's it! I can't take any more stupid ad jokes!"
The one thing I have to give major credit to the story is that even if we're in a different environment, it still respects the Shrek universe by adding some fairy tale characters around. But I feel like they could have given us a little connection to the Shrek franchise. It can be a good thing that it doesn't so we can see how Puss can do without it, but I wanted to see how Puss became a hitman at the Poison Apple. Another flaw is that one of the resolutions at the end, without spoiling anything, is just completely random, even for a fairy tale world. The story may have some flaws, but they're not big enough to keep it from being enjoyable. The animation. DreamWorks never ceases to amaze me with its animation. First off, the work on the cats, including Puss, is great. From the character designs to make them look fluffy to the character animation like when Puss would react like a normal kitty. They really nailed it when it comes to cats. On a side note, there are some times when they would do a dance number like a salsa or some kind of Spanish dance, and the character animation on that is just fabulous. Much more better than that Shake Your Groove Thing number in Shrek Forever After. Another thing that I was impressed with is the character design on the humans. They made it less realistic than the ones in the Shrek films, and it pays off really well. It makes me feel more welcome to an animated film than one that tries to look realistic without pointing any fingers. And then there's the background animation. I like what they did with San Ricardo by making an old Spanish Western environment, but I feel like it's been done already with Rango. The best background animation I find is in the giant's castle. It really does make you feel like you're just the size of a bug compared to the other common household objects there. But possibly the best part of the animation is the action scenes. This is where all the action kicks in, and the animation really got creative with it. As each film goes by, the quality of DreamWorks animation is slowly but surely being as good as Pixar's. The characters. When I think about the characters, they really are an interesting bunch. First, there's Puss, who hasn't changed since we last saw him, which I think is really good because there are some characters who intend to be cocky when they get their own spin-offs. Then there's Kitty Softpaws, who's not that bad as a partner to Puss, but I feel like her accent would go on and off sometimes. Two of the villains, who are Jack and Jill by the way, are just hilarious and freaky how they are so big and threatening. Much better than that horrible evil Hansel and Gretel. Then there are the more minor characters, like the caretaker of the orphanage who is like a mom figure to Puss, but she's barely in the movie to really feel what she's going through with him. And there's also the head guard who always sees Puss as an outlaw. Or, in other words, a street rat! By the way, if you're wondering about the giant since they go in his castle, he's already dead, so let's move on. Now, the best character in my eyes of the entire movie has to be Humpty Dumpty. Not only does he have an interesting relationship with Puss in the past, but also he is the heart of this film. A character who's been through hard times, and we can really feel for him no matter what he's doing. Also, he's played by Zach Galifianakis, and this isn't the role he usually plays like in The Hangover. Humpty is a master planner, a dreamer, an inventor, a smart aleck, and even a dark character. I love how DreamWorks is giving people like Galifianakis and Will Ferrell a role that goes beyond what they usually play. They should do that more often. It really is a mixed bag in the characters. There are some that stands out more, and then there are those that are easily forgettable. Every year, there's always that one animated film that I have doubts about, but ends up being way better than I thought. Puss in Boots is that film of this year. Even if there are a lot of things they took from other films, it makes up for it with a well-told story, great animation, and characters that you will really feel about. As for where this film stands in the Shrek franchise, I say this film goes directly in the middle. It's not really as good as the first two, but definitely better than the last two. Chris Miller, if you're watching this, I'm sorry that I ever doubted you, dude. I still won't forgive you for Shrek the Third, but you got my respect as the voice of the Magic Mirror and now as a director.